Hi, this is the Flipping and Wholesaling show in New York, Flipping and Wholesaling in New York show. And today I'm going to talk about the differences of doing business in New York, which is really the main reason that I can teach people to do this, because there are people who do this much better than me, but nobody teaches how to do this in New York except me. So this is the show really where I teach you how to either start the business of getting into wholesaling or rehabbing houses in New York, or help you build that business up. So we're going to talk about the differences of doing business in New York. What's different in New York? And a lot of people don't understand how different it is in New York. I really feel like it's another planet for a lot of reasons. So let's talk about some of the reasons why it's better in New York and some of the reasons why it's worse in New York. So first, why it's better. The most obvious reason why it's better in New York is you make more money here. I average about $30,000 on my wholesale deals and wholesale deals, and more on my rehabs. Just to give you some examples of other places, in Phoenix, most people are happy making $8,000 on an assignment deal, on a wholesale deal. We're doing a deal now where there's a $70,000 wholesale fee. This is impossible to do in areas where the median price is $100,000 to $150,000. You're not going to make $70,000 on a wholesale fee, and you're not going to make, you're not going to make numbers like that in other areas, right? There are advantages to doing it in other areas, but in New York, the one of the main advantages is that you're going to make more money. Now, some of the things that are difficult in New York, some challenges. So first of all, there's marketing challenges in New York. You can't get lists as easily in New York. You can't get code enforcement lists in New York. For example, some lists you can't get in New York. They see that as a violation of privacy. Also, the way you speak to people in New York is to be a little different, because a lot of people in New York are less trusting than in other parts of the country. So that's a challenge of doing business in New York. Now, a way that is one other reason why it's better in New York, and this shocks people all the time, is there's much less competition, much less. For example, very often I'm the only person giving an offer to a seller. Sometimes I have to compete with one other person. But in hot areas like Las Vegas, Phoenix, any city in Texas, you're talking about a parade of investors where they're going to get 60 postcards, anybody on any list, and they're going to get multiple offers right away. And that just doesn't happen in New York too often. It does happen on occasion, but rarely. So that's another reason why it's better in New York. I'm getting a deal under contract today where I was the second person to give an offer. So there was one other person, but again, that happens sometimes, but it's not a situation where she's getting 15 offers, which happens a lot in other hot areas. Okay, so another reason why it's challenging in New York, and the main reason I would say, is that how attorneys are so involved in the deal. So after a seller says yes to you in New York, and what is taught by all the gurus out there, and some of them are great, but I doubt many of them could do a deal in New York, is that after a seller says yes, you basically slide a contract over to them that you prepared, and you give them a check for $50 for a deposit. In New York, that's just not how it works. A seller's attorney prepares that contract, and there is no outs with an inspection contingency, because in New York, the inspections get done before the contract, not after. And that attorney can kill the deal, and he can cause you lots of problems, right? Because standard contracts in New York are not assignable. So there are really 3 seeds you need to plant in a seller's mind before they speak to their attorney for the first time. Those 3 seeds that you need to plant if you're trying to wholesale are A, the size of the deposit, because standard deposits in New York are 10%, and you don't want to give that much if you can avoid it. It's usually a negotiation. The second seed you need to plant is that the contract needs to be assignable, because standard contracts in New York are not assignable, and you can't assign a contract that's not assignable. And the third seed you need to plant is showing the property, because you're really going to have a difficult time in New York getting the most out of a wholesale deal unless you can show the property. These are the 3 seeds you need to plant, and you need to plant them in a way where it benefits the seller. And there are specific language you need for that. I'm not going to get into it in this one, but you basically want to explain to the seller that if the seller wants his transaction to close on his time frame, then he needs to make it as easy for you to do, and you may need to assign it to a different entity, and you want to start construction right away, so you want to get people in there beforehand, and you basically are saying to him about the deposit that, I do a lot of transactions, and I can't put 10% down on this, but I can give you $5,000, some other number. So these are seeds you need to plant before the seller speaks to his attorney. Otherwise, the likelihood of you getting what you want is diminished significantly. Okay. What is the next issue? Don't need to... Oh, another advantage of New York, right? So that was a challenge of New York, the attorneys. Advantage of New York is that when you buy a property at an auction, when you buy pretty much any property, but an auction or an online auction, you don't have to run title because you're getting it clean. That's just the way it works in New York. In most states, that's not the way it works. So if you wanted to buy a property at an auction in Georgia or in California, almost any state, there could be other liens attached to the property that you're going to get stuck with when you buy it. It's just not the way it works. Florida, that's the way it works also. But in New York, when you buy the property, the seller has to, because of the way the title company works and the way title insurance in New York works, you get the property free of all liens. The seller has to be responsible for it. That's a huge advantage. I almost took it for granted because I didn't know there was any other way. And I was listening to other gurus talking about how they would have to run title when they buy properties in Florida. And I'm like, why do you have to run title? I never run title. I mean, I run title, but I don't have to be concerned that there's going to be a lien attached to it because I know the seller's responsible for it in New York. So that's another huge advantage of doing business in New York that I took for granted for many years. I just didn't understand how it worked in other states. But now that I do, I really appreciate it. So that's another example. I'm buying something now in Freeport, and I'm getting a great price on it. And I don't have to think that maybe there's a tax lien or some other thing attached to it because I know that the seller's going to have to take care of it. And if the seller can't take care of it, in this case it's a bank, so I'm pretty sure they will, then I won't buy the property, but I won't get stuck with something that's a bomb surprise on me. So just to recap, and this is not all the differences in New York. There are so many more, better and worse. But I think a lot of people don't understand just how different it is by wholesaling and rehabbing properties in New York, the advantages that we have here and disadvantages that we have there. So I wanted to recap it. And again, so there's 7 ways. If you're interested in getting into wholesaling or rehabbing in New York, then there are 7 ways I can help you. If you're watching on Facebook, they're going to be above. If you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be below. If you like these videos, please click like. I really could use the help with the likes. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube and you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe, share, comment. Any requests for any videos that any topics that you want me to cover, I'm happy to cover. And I hope you got some benefit out of this. And my office number should be somewhere in the notes also if you want to contact me. But I hope you enjoyed this, and we're going to continue. I'm going to continue doing these Facebook Lives and then post them on YouTube for the near future. Thank you.